Welcome back to our VeChain has NFT podcast with Critter down in the bottom right. We got Braden down in the bottom left, and in the upper left we have none other than Airworthy, and then of course myself from I'm Tricky Boom from Non-Fungible News. Today's episode we will be talking about building community, successful projects, what causes a project to do good, what causes a project to fail. But let's just start. How are you guys doing today? You want to introduce yourselves real quick? Where you're from, what you're doing, why you're here?
Sure.
Yeah.
So I'm Braden, and I'm one of the co-creators of VTHO. I am originally from California, lived there my whole life until about a year and a half ago, and I moved to San Antonio, Texas. And it was the best decision that me and my family have made so far. It was an amazing decision. And, we started War Dogs about 6 months ago, I think, something like that, July. And since then, been trying to kick ass and take names and just keep going and keep building, sort of thing.
I'm Airworthy, founder of Ukiyo-e Warriors and co-founder of Ukiyo-e Warriors and A&A Arts. Which is like a studio still on the VeChain blockchain. I'm from Provo, Utah, born and raised. Other than Utah, I've lived for a few years in Japan in a few different areas. I come from a music background, big hip hop head growing up. I've been making music, actually releasing music for about 10 years or so and performing, and also bringing that a little bit into the project as well.
Right on. Critter Club. I'm one of the co-founders of Non-Fungible Book Club, which hasn't minted yet. From California, the state capital, actually. My whole life, spent some time in the Bay Area, a few years living there, but pretty much Sacramento my whole life. I guess I would consider myself like a indie or a amateur writer. My whole life, pretty much poems, lyrics, short stories, books. So that's sort of my background and kind of the perspective that I come from in this space, I guess, if I were to like box it in.
So we have writing background, we have filmmaking background, and we have music background, and kind of bringing a little bit of everything into the NFT community, which is what's needed and what we're seeing all over the board right now. Whatever blockchain you're on, there's big initiatives for bringing a lot more than just monkeys and things like that onto NFTs and selling them. So you guys, we'll start with you, Critter. I think you've been in this for quite some time. You were minting V-Punks back in the day. What are you seeing that is causing a project to succeed and or fail? And then you've been working on your own project for some time now, but you pushed back the mint a little bit. And so what is it that makes a project good versus not so good?
Well, like we said, we wouldn't name drop, and this really isn't name dropping because I think the community leader knows this about their project, and it's V-Punks, what you were talking about originally. And I think as you said, like I minted V-Punks. I'm a moderator currently for V-Punks, have been for over a year. And when a creator or a founder of a project is inaccessible, I've noticed that even when they're building incredible shit, like the V-Punks have, right? They have the first play to earn game, and it's been rolling with staking, and they were responsible for really a lot of firsts in the VNFT space, man. And despite his team's talent and consistency of delivery, him not being present in the discords, in the Twitter spaces, sharing his stories and his process, which isn't, I'll say this outright, it's not his fault. English isn't his first language, right? They operate in Vietnam. He's uncomfortable. They use a lot of Google Translator to talk to us, through the Discord mod channel and all that. But as a community member, it's kind of funny because, I'm sitting there watching them deliver. But what I've noticed is that because there's no front man, no front person rather, right? It has created like anxiety, and it's created sort of a turnover in the community. There's been groups of people that try to like galvanize a front face for the operation. I was trying to help be one of those people, but I think what it did really was confuse a lot of holders, like, you know, especially when that front group kind of disbanded and diluted into the rest of the community and other projects. It kind of made the people that maybe weren't following VPunks very closely, but were pretty heavily invested, kind of go, damn, like they just rugged us, they left us alone. It's like, no, the original creator, he's still going. Like he's creating new staking pools, updating the game, creating new games, expanding into a marketplace and a launch pad for play to earn games here. He's not around though, right? And so for me, that was a really long ass answer, but what I'm trying to say is like having the creator be accessible in our space, being part of the community, not just someone that like steps off the platform to speak and then disappears. I think that if I could say like anything that I've learned in like observing like VC and Bread being that center person, right? There's a really stark difference between the projects that have that front facing person and those that for whatever reason cannot or do not yet. That makes sense.
Yeah, I think that makes good sense. And you know, for people that have been around for a little while, that have seen everything that VPunks has built and continues to build, you know, it's a little easier for us to go, you know, buy VPunks and hold VPunks for that reason than somebody that's just coming in new to the space. It's like, you know, first of all, somebody's going to come on the VeChain and say, well, this punks thing is dead, you know, that CryptoPunks are CryptoPunks. And, you know, and then they find, well, I can't even talk to the creator, the developer. Well, that's going to be hard to draw in new, you know, new collectors, new investors. But on the other side of that, you know, like with those of us that have been around for a while, I mean, when the last staking pool dried up, I think it was like the very next day or like 2 days later that the next staking pool was open for that. And so,
Yeah,
you know, we see that kind of thing, and that helps those of us that are, you know, around and know what's going on.
plugged in. Yeah.
I think that's a good point though, that, you know, being able to talk to the creator, which is, you know, you're readily available for Non-Fungible Book Club. Braden and Airworthy, you guys are readily available. Airworthy, you've put out a couple of projects. You've been around for quite some time also.
Mhm.
What are you seeing that works and what doesn't work from a creator standpoint? Like, what is the community like versus, you know, what's going to be a slow go for you?
Well, I mean, one of the first thoughts that I had was actually went along with what Critter said. I noticed from and luckily this was something that I feel like I kind of recognized before we did drop our project. But really connecting with the people, with VFam, with the people around, and not just the collectors, but also the creators, the marketplaces. That was something that that I felt like we need to have a really good foundation before we even drop something. Like I want people to be able to know us and connect with us and communicate with us. And so actually, I think I could be wrong here, but it might be like the first collab in VeChain NFTs. But I remember I immediately hit up Mad V Apes before they minted, and I talked to them. You know, is there something that we can do where, you know, maybe we can use like one of my logos? I don't even know if we had like an Ukiyo Warriors logo yet, but I had my logo for my music that, you know, I had a few different variations of like the Airworthy logo, and you know, it was awesome. They were willing to put that on a couple of different traits, so you'll see like on the shirt and the hat, and that was something that really I think helped us a lot, because I remember a lot of people when we started to kind of come out with our projects. You know, we started out with a couple small collections on World of E, And then as we were preparing for the launch of Ukiyo Warriors, I remember people on Twitter or Discord and being like, oh, that's who it is. I was wondering what Airworthy was. And so that was something that helped a lot, because then it kind of started a little bit, a familiarity in their minds. And that helps kind of, get them more comfortable with our mint coming up. Another thing that comes to mind is making sure that, you're not promising too big of things. Like, even if it's something really, really small, but like, hey, like, we have this artwork. This is like one other thing. The one thing that we definitely could promise from the very beginning is that we were going to do a book. We have our author, Alex Corder, on the team, and, he's had experience. He's written a couple of books, has them published on like Amazon, I think. And I think he has like 10, 15 years of experience doing that. And so this was something that like he was very excited about doing. He also lived in Japan, that's where I met him. And so he knows the culture. A lot of it is related to like Japanese history. So that was something that we could promise. And there were a bunch of other things that we really wanted to do. And there were, even times where it was like tempting, like, I want the community to know that like this is something that we're probably going to do, but like we didn't know 100%. Like, we didn't know the cost exactly of certain things. And honestly, learned on the way as well, because one thing that I noticed that I would promise, and luckily it was a smaller thing, it wasn't like crazy big, but like were launch dates. And there were a couple of times that you may even remember, even with like I think it even started with like our Warriors and our Yokai collections. Happened a couple of times where we're like, for sure we're gonna have this date. And it kind of took us a while to get to the point where we're like, let's not even just, we can kind of give a ballpark, but no more exact dates or anything until like 100% all the art is completed, everything for it. Because turns out the artwork that Alias is doing takes more time than even he thinks sometimes. There's been a lot of times where he's like, yeah, I can for sure do that. But the amount of hours that goes into every single trait takes, we don't even know how long it takes, just so long. But I think starting out, just promising what for sure you have ready, and then along the way, coming out with those things that you think that you can maybe do, just making sure that and then that builds that builds trust. And I think over this past year we've had our ups and downs. We didn't execute exactly on certain dates sometimes, but I think the community sees that we're not perfect. I think showing that is okay, that you're vulnerable, you're not perfect, but that you're working on it. And like, Critter's point, being present and connecting with your community.
Yeah, we come back to that point. Yes, being present, but yeah, what you said, because I've been as a collector for quite some time, and early on, I think when people were promising, a date for this or a date for that or a price or an event or whatever, and they don't meet it, it took the project down just a little bit, because okay, they're promising something and I'm not getting that on the date. Well, over the course of time being involved in this community and this space, like personally, I like to just jump into Discord when things are going awry, just to read all the comments, because people are going nuts. So, well, this is supposed to happen and blah, 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 blah. I throw a popcorn eating meme out there here and there, kind of poke the bear a little bit. But, for me, as, somebody who's been around for a little while, I definitely understand why people don't hit their, hit the mark every single time. And, but goes back to bringing in new people. I've been in those Discords when an event's happening and things aren't going right. And I've seen people just walk away, like right then and there, like, okay, this isn't going as planned, I'm done. So I think that's a great point. Promise only what you can promise at any given time. And even if you gotta just throw out a curveball every once in a while, like, hey, we're ready, we're going tomorrow, because maybe people aren't as prepared, but at least you're prepared for what you're trying to deliver.
Totally.
Now we've got Braden with the freaking success of the year as far as, project hype, floors pumping, everything else. I mean, those war dogs, people love them. What is it that you're doing that is boosting your community so much and making everybody just, love what you're building?
Well, I would say the success maybe of last year. Things have been a little bit slow this year, but it's interesting because I was gonna say a lot of what both Critter and Airworthy said, and so I think I'd like to build on a little bit on what they're saying, then I have a couple of extra things. But Critter with the present thing, I completely agree. I mean, we don't have to beat a. I have a saying. I'm not gonna say it. Beat a horse. Is that what it is? Beat a dead horse. We're not gonna beat a dead horse with it. But I mean, I think that's an obvious one, and that's something that that comes easy to us as a team in War Dogs, especially for, I can't speak for anybody else, but for me, because I just enjoy, like, I'm addicted to the Discord, you know what I mean? And I'm addicted to our Twitter, and I wake up like so I can hang out with our community. So that's something that comes easy to us, and so that's one of the checks in the box. I agree. If you were to make a top 5 list, that's certainly one of them. And then with Airworthy saying with the no promises, that's a huge one. And I want to say that I think the dogs are also pretty good at this. Not necessarily the best, but we've been pretty good at it. And still, we fucked up the exact same thing. It's dates, just like Airworthy saying. You think that you're going to have something done. I mean, Portal Dogs, our Gen 2, took 6 months. We thought that it was going to take like a third of that. You know what I mean? Because these things just take a lot of time, and then, setting them all up with how they work on the blockchain, yada, yada. But again, that was something that we had the fortitude to be like, yeah, we shouldn't overpromise. We knew enough that guys promising games and stuff like that was just you can we knew that we weren't game makers, that we knew what we were capable of, and we're like, okay, so maybe we can make a comic book. Yeah, we can make a comic book. Maybe we can get this VC staking. Well, we'll get the VC staking. And so I agree with that. And just a couple other things to add. I want to say that and this may sound cheesy, but like the will to keep going, like tenacity is a big one, because and we're seeing this VeChain wide. I don't know if it's like all blockchains, but it's certainly VeChain with a slow months, weeks, whatever you want to call it, and you have to be able to get up, shake it off. Let's say you have a bad sales week, or not much engagement on the Discord, and put a smile on your face and just keep going. So I think that that's a huge thing, and that's not just NFTs, that's life, right? So there's that, and I think that the last thing I'll add until we talk about more stuff is transparency. Honesty, because like most people nowadays, I feel like can see through some BS, and just the way that you talk with people, at least if you believe it at the time, you know what I mean, as opposed to just bullshitting people. Nobody likes a bullshitter, and so I think that that's a crucial element too. And I did think of one other thing. What was it? It's kind of similar. Oh shit. That was the bullshitting one. Timeout. cut. No, the bullshitting, and then I remember what it was, and it's that and this one's probably the hardest one out of all these things to do, is tact with people, because we I don't know if it's, again, I don't know if this is VeChain exclusive. I'm assuming it's a Web3 thing, because I think that Web3 people are just similar, when we all come here and with, pretty similar personalities. It's that, the ability to to handle somebody who's standoffish or, you know, just not on the same frequency as you and other people, you know, however you want to say that, that goes a long way too, because, you know, I've at least I found that, you know, if somebody's coming after us about something, you know, whether it's a big deal or whether it's asinine, you know, if you're just nice to them, they'll eventually stop, right? And it's funny because we were talking before, I'm not going to mention who it is, but we were talking before the cameras rolled, that you know, I haven't always practiced that, right? I'm usually good. I think it's like 98, 99% of the time, I'm like, hey, that's your opinion, man. Or, you know, we'll keep going. But yeah, I DM people, you know, I DM this guy who was getting crazy with me, and I'm like, hey, fuck you, dude. You know, so you know, I don't always succeed in that, but I think like as long as you're mostly doing that, you know, and you keep that the exception of the rule, that's important as well.
Note everybody, maybe don't take your tact tips from Braden. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, tact is definitely important, especially because everything that we do is in the public eye. You know, you see this stuff, you know, people are tweeting whatever their, you know, whatever their grievances are about a given project. You know, we're seeing a little bit more of that lately. I feel that, you know, there's people disappointed in the way things are going. And right now we're coming off of a huge high. Like last month, there was about $750,000 worth of vet traded in the ecosystem. And right now you know, we were having 50,000 vet day or 50,000 US dollar days in January. And now we're back down 4,000. I think a lot of people, you know, you're seeing it across Twitter, are disgruntled, you know, worried, whatever it is. But yeah, that tact is a huge thing because you don't want that to be, you know, going around Twitter that everybody's grumpy and mad and everything else in the VeChain community. So if you can, you know, pull them aside in a DM or just you know, reply on their thread to, you know, lay some facts out and try to calm the nerves. I've seen that lately too on the Twitter where, you know, somebody made a thread about this and you know, there's a lot of people jumped in and kind of calm the person down and kind of brought them back down to, hey, this is what's going on. This is why we think it's going on. This is kind of the general consensus. Let's just get back to square one, why we're here, and enjoy it. You know, we're seeing a lot of people say, take a break, take a break, take a break, hit that mental health, do what you got to do. And you know, that's nobody's gonna fault you for stepping away, and that's gonna help you with your tact. That's gonna help you with everything. So there's definitely a lot that goes into that, and you know, it's not always easy to not fly off the handle that 1% of the time. I mean, it's in us all. Nobody can avoid it all 100%. Just my advice to anybody would be to do it like Braden did so eloquently behind closed doors in the DMs. Now, you have to be careful with that too, because there's people that will blast that all over the social media as well. You're not protected from everything at any point in this Web3 world. So let's jump into another topic of controversy here. Sucking liquidity. People like to you know, people say, well, you're putting out another project, you're just you know, you're sucking out liquidity because you're not managing your project's funds, or you can't hit your roadmap because you ran out of money. So now all you know, all you're going to do is put out another project and suck more liquidity out. And I mean, everybody's got their opinion on that. I mean, if it's a good project, I don't mind you know, putting in more support. I like collecting NFTs. I like supporting good people. But Braden, you guys have had War Dogs and then Portal Dogs, and Airworthy, you have had Ukiyo Warriors, Yokai, in
Kodama Club.
Kodama Club. That's right.
Kodama Club is like low key one of the best art in all of VeChain, by the way. I love the Kodama Club. It's like my favorite shit.
Dude, those are pretty fun. They're pretty cool. So you guys have put out a couple collections. I've seen FUD go across about, well, War Dogs is doing this, or Ukiyo Warriors is doing this. I mean, you guys are seemingly transcending the FUD and collaborating to put out a project with the two of you, which I can see it and I can hear it already, what people are going to have to say about it, but let's just hear it from the horse's mouths. What's
The
in
dead horse's mouths.
the what?
The dead horse's mouths.
Well, yeah, you guys are still alive, I think. So,
Yeah, no, I mean, I'll be happy to respond first, Airworthy, if you're cool with that. First of all, people are gonna FUD you no matter what you do. People are gonna FUD if you say good morning too many times. GM, like the wrong, you know what I mean? Like he's just GMing. I do think that is certainly something to think about. Obviously, me and Gerg and the team have, every time we think about coming out with something, that's obviously a thing that we think about. I think that there's a couple of justifications to being able to do that. And one is, is the prior collection worth more than it minted for, or is it worth more than the people that, are buying it when they bought it? If the answer is yes, then that justifies a lot for a next collection, because at the end of the day, a lot of this is about money. A lot of it's about community and a lot of it's about money. And so, when me and Gerg came in to the community before we minted or anything like that, I don't want to use the word toxic. Edit the word toxic out. But what I do want to say is I don't think that is necessarily, I don't personally agree with that sentiment of that, you can't, mint more and this and that. At the end of the day, this is a business, A. B, if there's a good return on investment, and just for example, this Yuki Dogs thing coming up with Portal Dogs specifically, and this is for anybody specifically who's like, fuck War Dogs, right? With Portal Dogs, so there's the Portal Passes and then there's the Portal Dogs. We gave away half of the Portal Passes. So immediately, there are over 4,000 tokens worth almost 1,000 vet that were just created out of nothing. And so those people who own those Portal Passes got that vet for free, well, for holding War Dogs, right? And so, I mean, that's an incredible amount of value when you think about it. If you didn't have 5 dogs and you're mad, maybe you should have gotten 5 dogs. But I at the same time, like, back to TAC, right? I get the concern, but at the end of the day, we do have to move forward. And War Dogs, we are not a utility, like, super heavy project, right? We're a community driven, hype driven, ultimately a film company, and we've made we've never tried to hide that fact, I guess. So that's where I'm coming at it. If you bought your War Dog and it's worth more than you bought it for, maybe give us some slack on the next one. Now, I know I'm rambling, but I'll keep going, like, into Yuki Dogs, right? The only thing I'll say, and then I'll let Airworthy kind of address it, is that Yuki Dogs started out different with, our intentions of being, let's launch it on Algo. And let's bring as many people to VeChain as possible. That was always at the forefront. Those plans fell apart, and now we're launching on a VeChain, and we're still going to do it. The collection 777. We're not going to make that much money. I mean, you can do the math, right? 777 divided by how many people are on our team? 8 people or something like that. 9, 10 people, plus Handy. We got to pay Handy. We're not fucking even gonna pay rent with it. So if you don't want to mint one of the Yuki Dogs, then don't mint one. But what I can tell you is that we're gonna try our damnedest to make it so it's gonna be worth more than you mint it for. And that's not a guarantee, but we're gonna try. Maybe it'll be worth more.
Well, given the history of what you guys have already done, I would say that's a pretty good likelihood that will happen. But I mean, only time will tell, right? Airworthy, what are your thoughts on that?
You'll see me, like, respond without sound is because I'm programmed to mute when I'm not talking. I should probably stop that. Here, I'm not muted.
Sorry, Tricky, you asked me. Just kind of
Yeah, you know,
my side.
being involved in the space for so long, seeing this FUD about you know, sucking liquidity and more projects and
Yeah,
everything.
okay. Yeah, so I think one of the earliest kind of indicators that we weren't just in it for money was when we decided to cut the Warriors mint a little bit short. And this is something too that, you know, I think, you know, looking back, it's something I've even thought about, like, oh, I don't know if we should have done that, but it wasn't ever really about the money. It was just about you know, how the collection came across with its supply and everything. But that was something that we had in mind. Like, our intentions were we are going to cut off the mint. We don't want it to just keep running. We kind of want to proceed with our plans and everything that we want to do, and focus on, you know, marketing and everything like that. And so our intention at the time, that's, you know, we're going to cut it short, and we're not just going to keep trying to get this minted out. We wanted to just go ahead with our plan. So a week after the Warriors mint started, that's when we cut the rest of it. It was pretty close. That's where I kind of look back and I'm like, you know, I feel like we kind of maybe should have just kept it running and get those minted out. But anyway, with that intention in mind, you know, we wanted it to burn the rest of them so that we can focus on the community, the holders that we had right then that have already for days, you know, been holding something while the mint is still going. So that was kind of, I feel like at least that should be an indicator of, like, you know, we want to focus on the community now. We're not just trying to continue to get sales, like continue to get more money. And then a few months after that, we used quite a big portion of our mint funds to hire a animation studio that was, you know, we did a lot of research, and we found one that focuses on, you know, Japanese animation. It also, and that was something that we had kind of promised earlier on, and turned out it is very expensive, even for a 60-second anime, which we did, which I think came out, it was somewhere between $8,000 to $9,000 just to do that. We did do a mint on that. You know, there were 3 different parts that you got, and if you got all 3, you get the full 60-second NFT, which does have utility in our ecosystem. But you know, we definitely didn't even make any money off that. I think we lost money with that. But I think people can see what we have done. You know, if you look at what we've done in the past with our funds, and what we're doing, you know, with our collections, I think it's at least to me, it should be obvious that we're not here to just take money and just run. And there was one other point I was going to bring up. Kodama Club was one that, if you also look at the mint price, there was, okay, the supply and the mint, there were only 1,000. Mint price was 300 vet. And that was something, most of the vet that we got from that actually went to Handy. And this is something too, I remember what the other point I was going to make is that I think feeling out what the community wants, I think plays a big part in it. I personally, I can't remember the last time anyone in our Discord, any of like our actual holders, like people that are actually around and not just some random people with some like burner account Twitter names. I can't remember the last time any of those people brought up any, well, definitely not FUD, but even concerns, which are totally okay. Like, we want to hear your concerns, but about, you know, oh, you probably shouldn't do another collection, or it shouldn't be this price, or that supply is too big. But I think that's something that we noticed, even with Kodama Club. It was exciting, it was cheap, it was a big reason for it as well, was kind of like a campaign, I guess, if you could say, to support Handy, because he's been in the ecosystem killing it with commission art, which is super cheap, by the way. Like, I was really surprised when I started first working with him and finding out how much he charges for his artwork. And so this was a big way to you know, get some vet to him, which we all felt, and I think our community felt that he deserved. And then, you know, following with that, with our yokai collection and what we've been working on with Kijo, because I personally, I do have those concerns sometimes myself. Like, I don't know, like, we're doing another collection? Like, you know, are people going to just be turned off with the fact that, like, why are we doing another one? Or is that supply too big? But I always come back to, like, what is our community feeling and thinking? And it's just been, people just want our next collection to come out already. Like, they're already ready for it. We're not ready, but you know, and I think feeling that out is also really important. Your actual community, the people that really care, your holders, like, what do they think? And you know, that doesn't mean, and that, like, we don't plan to continue to come out with a collection every time. We do have on our roadmap a couple collections, but in the past few months, we've actually kind of adjusted with how we're going to do it, without it being, you know, most of them aren't going to be something where you pay for. It's mostly finding ways to reward our community right now. But yeah, hopefully that explains my point of view.
But yeah, trying to find a way to reward your community. You know, nobody's making money right now, like you guys both said. I mean, nobody's making a lot of money right now. We're doing this because we believe in a future, and we enjoy it. We enjoy what we do. So Critter, you are coming out with a project it's launching in less than 2 weeks, I do believe. So what is your perspective on this? Okay, so these guys have a couple projects out here, another one coming. Now, how does that impact you and your thoughts? Because you're putting out your first collection as you know, been in here in the VeChain community for a long time. How does that affect you? And you know, what are your thoughts on that while you're in the midst of putting out your first project?
Yeah, I mean, as these guys are talking, I'm looking at them and I'm like seeing all the value that they've created for the ecosystem in general. And I think that, like, to me, that's what's okay. Like, what kind of project for me is okay releasing further collections? It's ones that have that, like, are they creating new opportunity for their holders? I've seen that in both of these collections. Like, are they expanding opportunity or growth for the holders, right? And for the IP itself, right? Like, the intellectual property of the project. Like, I think when, you know, when those intentions are, like, aligned with the launch, I have no issue with further collections. Like, I can see without those elements, though, that, yeah, like, this is a vacuum of a liquidity vacuum. But, like, I don't see that with the two projects we're talking to here. And you know, as our project, how it impacts our project, it doesn't impact it in a way that's negative. It maybe inspires. So, like the idea of expanding IP, right? We think that, obviously, with our project, Non-Fungible Book Club, there's an opportunity to expand existing IP with and through partnerships with our project, right? So, like, we know that this ecosystem, you know, the profile picture collections, that's one avenue of expansion and growth. We think that, like, story, lore, and, like, multimedia can also be. And so that's sort of where Non-Fungible Book Club comes in and goes, like, that's the impact it has. I wanted a project that could help support what Braden said, which is, like, these are businesses, right? And they need to create and sustain revenue. And if they're going to create art for their holders in the form of story or Airworthy's music or the books or the comics, like, we think that there should be a place on VeChain for that expansion to occur, right? So, like, that's the impact that we have from our project. I think I could speak for my team. Like, we know that there can be other ways as well to do what Braden's talking about, which is very important for the holders as well, to keep revenue and growth happening in a project. So Yeah, and like in the roundabout, and just, you know, kind of backing up a little bit, maybe this answers your original question, but I'm also looking at the board, like you three guys here, and I don't just see your guys' projects, right? I don't just see Ukiyo Warriors, I don't just see War Dogs, I don't just see you know, non-fungibles. You guys as creators, for me, it's easy to invest in you guys because you have so many skills and talents like outside of just the projects that are amazing projects, right? So like, again, if you need to expand capital to grow that into filmmaking, Braden, or, you know, your music or the book, Airworthy, I mean, like, I see no problem with that. When it becomes a vacuum of liquidity, when not shit's coming out of it, sure, like then I'll say that's a problem, right?
Yeah. I'm sorry, Tricky, if you were gonna say something, but you know, hey, dude, I appreciate that. I agree with everything that you're saying, and I do like a little bit of a tangent. I am more excited for Non-Fungible Book Club than any other new project, especially from the last, you know, space that we were on. I talked to Gerg. This is an alpha drop. If you weren't on the space, I can't even remember what, maybe Thirsty Thursdays. You know, if you'll have it, me and Gerg are going to, because we're making a comic book, and in the comic book you have to be kind of brief, like, you know, the way that the words, you know, there's only so much page, right? But we have this whole backstory for the War Dogs universe. You know, War Dogs is a very transmedia style property that we've created, and you know, you're talking about that a little bit. That we want to make, you know, an audio book for, you know, in collaboration with Non-Fungible Book Club, and have Gerg narrate it, you know, as the dogs. So we're gonna do that. And that's, you know, again, this is like something that and this is kind of back to what Airworthy was saying, like way back, is we're gonna, you know, there's all kinds of stuff that you do that comes up, like, yes, we can do this, that's not necessarily on the roadmap, but that does add value. And so that's going to be one of them. And then I guess I have a final thought on this whole thing, you know, kind of bouncing off of Critter. You know, I agree with everything that you said, man. But you know, I'll ask the people, the people who do care about, you know, sucking the liquidity out. If you're a VeChain holder and you're worried that, you know, further collections from people are just sucking liquidity, try and think about it in a different way, right? So if you do think that one day people are going to come to VeChain, like we all think that, right? That eventually, you know, VeChain will be worth 20 cents at least, whatever, 25 cents, a dollar, you know? And then people are going to come and the NFT community is going to blow up. Would you rather have 90 projects, you know, like that, and you know, half of them are rugs? Or would you rather strong communities have like a few solid ones that people can buy into? Pump your bets, like think longer term than just right now, you know, oh shit, like, you know, my War Dog is going to go down a little bit if these guys come out with Yuki Dogs, you know.
That's a great point, dude. Great perspective, dude. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that is a really good perspective, you know. We want to bring more people in, and yeah, you support these good projects, it's going to help get the word out on a larger scale that you know, these guys have been here for a year, been here 2 years, and yeah, they put out 4 projects, but guess what? Their community is huge. And when I see, and a lot of us see these floors go down, like, yeah, we saw V-Kings pump up to 15K. We saw War Dogs pump up to 4,500 or so. And the fact that it's, you know, floors have gone back down is just like people see the macro crypto market. It's a time to get into these projects, you know. And it's interesting that, you know, you can get into all these different projects at different price points and say, I want to go buy a War Dog now that the VC marketplace indicates whether they've been portalized or whether they've been not portalized. Well, I'm more likely myself to buy one that has been portalized because I see a future in the project. So to me, it's not necessarily the ability for the hype, the here and now to be able to portalize it, where that holds its own value. but I'm more likely to look at the long-term value. Same thing with like World of V Genesis. I've been buying up Genesis cards that have been claimed for every single collector card because they're cheaper, but I know that they're going to come out with more collections, more sets to collect here in the future. And I think, I think in short, what it all comes back to is that simple, stupid hashtag of DYOR, do your own research. And this year is going to look a lot different I think in the crypto NFT landscape as a whole than it did last year, but especially for VeChain, because I mean, last year, every Tom, Dick, and Harry was launching a project with the promise of this, that, and the next thing. Well, I think people are a lot more likely now. We're all rooted here. We're gonna, to a degree, be able to see the bad actors as they come in a little bit better than we've been able to in the past, I think, as a whole. And one thing I was gonna say too, guys like the four of us and so many different people, we're all talking behind the scenes every single day on collaborations and everything. Like, our projects not only are helping ourselves, but we can perpetuate one another. Like, for example, Non-Fungible Book Club, I'm gonna go mint however many Non-Fungible book clubs I can for holders of my Non-Fungible Book Club collaboration piece within Non-Fungibles. I've given away War Dogs, and we'll have like an Ukiyo Warriors package to give away too. And I think that's something to be said too. Not to say I'm a big player or a small player, but I'm working with everybody in the space to try to benefit everybody in the space. And you'll notice that there's these maybe little groups of people that you'll kind of see from afar working together on this stuff, and then you get to looking at their kind of track record, their history. And like Non-Fungible Book Club's a perfect example. Been here for a long time, minted a buttload of V Kings, and wrote in a pretty good article. What was that, like last fall or something? You wrote a nice article about investing in V Kings and in VeChain and everything. So I think as a community as a whole, we're maturing to the points that you guys are all bringing up here. And yeah, I think if everybody just does their own thinking, if everybody does their own research to the best of your ability, because we can't weed out everybody, but yeah, I agree with you, Critter, 100%. If they're putting out a good project and their history has already been good, I don't have any problem investing in them for future projects.
Well said, man. Yeah, I think that another project that I'm a huge, like, super bullish on MVA. And it's probably a controversial thing to say. I love MVA. I love the team there. Leo's my boy. What's up, Leo? And for example, they're probably the number one example of projects after projects. But all those projects are worth more than you got them for. And B, they're doing something very cool where, I'm sure most people know this, but where you burn one of each collection, except for I think the new one, and you get like a dope, new 8, right? That's really smart. And so, I think those guys are doing the right thing. They're listening to, their community, and then they're pivoting in such a way that I think is good. And then one more thing I want to say, not to beat off a dead horse. That's my line. Cut. We're cutting that out. Not to beat a dead horse, but back to I'm speaking to VeChain people here who, with the liquidity thing. VeChain has no liquidity. When you look at the charts, we did have a pump recently. That insane pump was started, I don't know if a lot of people know this, by 2 guys. It was started by 2 whales that aped into VKings. And they're one of them's I think a little older than the community, but then decided to ape in. So that's how small our liquidity is. The amount of money that's going around is that two guys started a bull run that was with $50,000 a day. That's only two guys coming in and spending I don't know how much they spent, probably 15 20 grand each, something like that, right? I don't know, maybe less. Imagine more than that. Imagine more than two guys. And that's what we're all working towards, right?
Absolutely. I think the four of us at least see the potential in the future, and I think it's great. All right, final parting words for the listeners and or viewers. What to look for, what not to look for.
I'll go first. I think to sum it all up, everybody brought up great points, but look for transparency, I think, is the thing that I'll end on. Whether somebody's telling you the truth or not, again, I feel like, I don't know if it's because we're in a simulation. We totally are in a simulation, but I feel like nowadays it's easier to, like, maybe it's just me. As I've gotten older, it's easier for me to see through bullshit, but I feel like that's a thing for a lot of people too. So if somebody's transparent and they're working hard, I'll bet on that guy more than somebody coming out with like a master plan and all this stuff, and then they they're jerking you off about whatever, right?
Airworthy.
Yeah, I would just say, is the creator, is the founder of this project someone that you can really get to know? Like, are they around? Do you see them tweeting almost every day on Twitter? Are they in the Discord every day, at least a little bit, answering people's questions, talking about the project? Are they in other Twitter spaces promoting their project? Like, are they taking the time and effort to go outside of this community? Like, I think you can see, just by their work ethic and their passion for the project, like, are they really trying to get the word out? Are they there? Are they present? I think it's a lot of things, a lot of little things, like Braden said, being transparent and open. But I think I think it's just so important to, are you able to really know this person, and, have they been around? I think those are important things to look for.
Yeah, no, great points. Like doubling everything these guys just said, but yeah, I mean, in addition, like, are they available, which is what Airworthy was touching on, right? The creator, meaning or like the team behind the project. And then the only other thing I might add is, like, what is their value beyond the product that they're putting out? Like I explained, like, looking at all of you guys, there's value that's outside of your projects. And that's, for me, it's sort of like who I'm investing in versus what I'm investing in. And so, yeah, I think the availability of the creator feeds into that, because you can see that when you know about their lives and what they're into and the what they're capable of, right? We're investing in people, like, make no mistake about it. And if you don't believe me, man, go check out what happened to Vigos and Pixel Puffs at launch, right? So yeah, I think the availability, but assess the value of the people behind the project too.
Well, right on, fellas. Thank you for coming on today. Thanks for weighing in on the topics. And to our listeners, join us back next week for another talk with a different group of individuals, because we have had enough with these ones. So thanks, everybody. See you soon.